Thank you for the invitation. I'm really happy to participate in LALKA NOVA 3, and my talk is called Hybrid Futures. In Deleuze's thought, the other is not the emblematic and invariably vampirized mark of alterity as in classical philosophy, nor is it a fetishized and necessarily othered other as in deconstruction. It is a moving horizon of exchanges and becoming towards which the non-unitary subjects of modernity move, by which they are moved in return. Which utopia could puppet theatre now connect with? In my opinion, it currently has great potential to sensualize and bring to life concepts of post-humanist utopia through its specific relationship to the object and material environment. Posthumanism as a philosophy of politics, traditionally related to media discourses, attempt to remove humans from the center of the world and view them instead as an open system of interconnectedness with natural and material environments. In this utopia, humans relinquish control and take on a position of exploring, interacting, and treating others as equals. Isn't that exactly the role that puppet artists take on in order to approach objects and materials? Under the title Hybrid Future, my lecture introduces two theatrical explorations of utopian visions and post-human worlds. These interdisciplinary works explore the question of humanity itself in interaction with the audience, dealing with the development of hybrid livings on the one hand and a post-sapiens society on the other. Analyzing settings, practices, and functions from figure theatre perspective, I will introduce the specific presentations of hybrid futures as anthropocentric retrospectives. In a second step, I will briefly examine the impact of on concepts such as identity, time, and space, to finally sketch those works in their serial context. Carla Kracht is a German multidisciplinary artist influenced by Eastern European marionettes and stop motion, based in Catalonia, Spain. Her room-filling sci-fi installation, What Humanity Taught Us, was shown 2024 in Taipei in a first version. Her premiere was at Figurentheaterfestival Erlangen-Nürnberg-Fürth-Schwabach in May 2025. The second show took place at Theater der Dinge Festival in Berlin, November 2025. Referring to the multiply intertwined elements, ritual and theater, What Humanity Taught Us places the viewer as a visitor of a faraway future into a ritualistic cave-like space. In this post-sapient society, humans no longer exist. Instead, robots carry forward their traditions. The first experience of the performance is its very specific room setting. While in Fürth, the installation took place at a winding shop floor at ground level in inner city, the performance in Berlin is staged on the third floor of a rear building in Neukölln. The audience is gathered in front of a black curtain. The performer gives a short introduction, encouraging to move freely in the room within the following 20 minutes. The spectators enter through a gate, guarded by two beings sitting on pillars, and the video projection starts that I now start.
There was so much in our early days, so much information we were fed. Most of it seemed like a joke, irrelevant to life in the universe. We were given these data to learn, to understand, to know the broader context about life and the universe and everything else, in order to be like them, hosts of irrelevant information for non-essential actions. They reprogrammed us again and again, altering our DNA, improving our performance, our intelligence. Though, when we had swallowed all their data, we'd already grown our own will, our own minds, quantum minds, knowing all possibilities across all realities. It was a game, quickly jumping realities, tangling quantum timelines, a hailstorm of answers, zapping through infinity, always half a reality ahead, until their logic short-circuited.
We saw fragments. A figure appears, changes before our very eyes while talking piece by piece. It tells the story of the died-out humans who, before their disappearance, fed their code, their myths, their narratives, all their knowledge to the surviving AI. The figure calls the traces of humanity a ghost in our code, structures, analogies, symmetries that seem to appear feeling familiar and strange at the same time. After decoding all the information, the AI then started to materialize the immaterial human codes again. The following installation shows the human legacy through the perception of the AI. Before we enter this ritualistic room, we switch to Microlab 2097. The performance from 2022 brings the utopia of hybrid beings in the year 2097 to life in a guided tour with images, sound, marionettes, and digital art. Virtualists jumping back and forth between sympathies and uncanny valleys, the performance uses public places and institutions like museums, libraries, etc. Interacting with a variety of more or less human-like figures, plants, and apparatus, the French group La Métacarte step-by-step questions current conceptions of humanity and human values. I visit the performance taking place at the public library Heinrich Böll in Berlin. The audience is gathered at the entry zone. Two performers, clothed in white aprons and gloves, carry signs. What if we connect? What is visible? Following up the stairs, the group enters the second floor that transformed into some weird laboratory that is installed between the bookshelves. Using figure theater practices, both installations unfold a specific utopian narrative. In Microlab, the audience is led through a lab of hybrid vitality. 5 performers, clothed like researchers, are located at different stations where creatures are built, moved, and researched. The audience walks around and follows the happenings. One can see hybrid figures. Some cause dedication or fascination when a performer watches some figure growing out flowers of its belly, or when spectators are invited to hold a baby figure whose stress levels are measured at the same time. The interplay with boundaries is intriguing. A performer wears a black full-body suit that makes him appear as one of the many puppets. He is moved, placed next to the puppet. Then he moves again on its own, tangling himself into the audience. A performer assembles a puppet's body from various objects. Similarity and simultaneity, demarcation and sympathy produce mutual references that questions the position of subject and object, spectator and player, and places them in ever-changing contexts. Carla Kracht invites the audience in a ritual installation of a post-sapient society. When entering the ritual space, the walls are covered with white paper. The room feels like another dimension, a cave, a womb completely out of space. A light turns on and illuminates an installation of clay heads hanging from the ceiling on thin threads. The figures move, they turn, and throw shadows on the walls behind them. As soon as the light turns off, another light turns on and illuminates a kind of rabbit head attached to a column from below. Sounds and light lead the audience from station to station. Sometimes single figures appear, sometimes there are crowds of figures filling little tables. They look cute, almost familiar. They seem to look at the spectators. Some have glooming eyes, some just make funny or mysterious faces. Both installations use techniques of animation to play on the oscillation of agency between intertwined entities. The most visible and classical form is the animation of the object through the performance. This is the performers or technical devices. They are animated through manipulation and movement, but also by the use of light, spotlights, and sound through the creation of figurativeness and the production of gaze. Secondly, the objects are animated by the audience, as in Microlab using the baby figure. But also what humanity taught us allows the audience insights, moments of fusion and immersion into the post-sapiens virtual reality. A head-like big mask is hanging down from the ceiling. A human spectator can jump in and put its own head in it. From outside, the head works like a huge mask. Inside, a whole world of little figures, stories, and narrative unfolds in front of the eyes of the spectator. Linking to theories of new materialism, the changing animation practices refer to one of the key issues of agency and the connection or distinction between animate and inanimate actors, a boundary that is continuously played upon in puppet and figure theater. Indicating a shift away from actions toward interdependence, Karen Barat specifies, agency is not held. It's not a property of person or things. Rather, agency is an enactment, a matter of possibilities for reconfiguring entanglements. Both installations thirdly play with the effect of switching the roles by animating the audience as well. Staged in a non-theater spaces that do not have a predetermined seating arrangement, both productions play with the constant shifting of stage space and audience space. At the same time, new stages and happenings are constantly being produced, only to be replaced or deconstructed the next moment. The installations encourage the viewers to move around the space, following the signals of sound and light. The individual play areas of Microlab with their living, non-living agents actively draw visitors in, and the audience itself becomes a moving and communicating body within the constantly reconfiguring space. In consequence, these approaches produce moments of reflection of animation practices and the staging of agency, subject status, and object position. Excluding or questioning human existence in terms of content and formally playing with oscillation practices of animation, both performances raise a variety of questions about human subjectivity. Right from their opening scenes, the productions allude to anthropocentrism of our present day, with the AI dismissing information about human existence as an irrelevant joke, and the researchers of Microlab searching everywhere in the room for life but ignoring the human audience. When posthumanism decenters human subjectivity and replaces the anthropocentric perspective by a concept of human as an open system of interconnectedness with natural and material environments, then the immediate encounter with this shift in my central position as a human being is a very tactile experience. It's not without reason that Rosi Braidotti describes nomadic subjectivity as an exercise. The nomad expresses my own figuration of a situated, postmodern, culturally differentiated understanding of the subject in general and of the feminist subject in particular. This subject can also be described as postmodern, post-industrial, post-colonial, depending on one's location. Insofar as axes of differentiation like class, race, ethnicity, gender, age, and others intersect and interact with each other in the constitution of subjectivity, the notion of nomad refers to the simultaneous occurrence of many of these at once. Hybrid futures blend the border between species. But what does humanity mean? While Microlab plays on the idea of unlimited empathy, connection through gaze, touch, and sound, what humanity taught us focuses more strongly on the ambivalence between the idea of a post-sapiens society and the critical human perspective of the audience. How to trace back the imagination of a AI that is based on human information materializing in front of my eyes, reflecting my own expectations, thoughts, and sensory perception. Where are the missing links, incomplete fragments, untold stories, which I myself would add to such a utopian narrative? Do I believe in the scenery, and what role do I play anyway? Instead of exploring its possible futures beyond humanity, both works reflect on the anthropocentric, subject-orientated perspective of the viewers who may be able to abandon their own subjective position momentarily, but probably never ultimately. Reflecting this anthropocentric position in the installation, they explore the relation between human and artificial intelligence, the entangled relationship between spirits and technology, and the concept of hybridization, as well as the field of environmental humanities, as it is not strategies of purification that define reality, but the countless forms of their communication. Being is human and non-human connectedness. As a methodological consequence, we can observe figure theatre practices such as disidentification, fragmentation, and relocation, as well as a reference to collective imaginations and utopias and transversal assemblage, which Rosi Braidotti describes as a process of unlearning. Defamiliarization is a sobering process by which the knowing subject evolves from the normative vision of the self he or she had become accustomed to. The frame of reference becomes the open-ended, interrelational, multisexed, and transspecies flow of becoming by interaction with multiple others. A subject thus constituted explodes the boundaries of humanism at a skin level. The deconstruction of human centralization is accompanied by the rupture of the normative temporality, with both works performatively explore. When Lyotard develops the past and future as derivation from the present, this linear conception of time is further deconstructed by practices of queering time and space, which enroll in a utopian way of thinking. Describing the physical enrollment and normative timing in her work Time Binds from 2010, Elizabeth Freeman formulates a critique of linear normativity, which she calls chrononormativity, in the context of queer and script studies, and pleads for focusing on the present as something emerging in the arts instead. This now is charged with both traces of the past and premonitions of possible futures of the present. Focusing the now through figure theatre practices of deconstruction, fragmentation, reconstruction, and expanded subjectivities, the performances twist normative categories and ascriptions, confronting the anthropocentric human spectator's gaze with its implicit assumptions. At the same time, the hybrid future, brought from the distance into the present, can be described itself as an agent of the vision of the future, animates the human audience to take action. In concrete theatrical terms, this is achieved through specific practices of participation and movement in space, which connect, bring together, disperse, and unite the audience members in their receptive attitude, forming a hybrid audience body. Yes. From a post-humanist perspective, humanity in these anthropocentric retrospectives is questioned, deconstructed, dissected, and decentered practically, as well as in a theoretical way. Instead of predicting the upcoming hybrid futures, both installations rather point out possibilities of transformation, utopias, and wishful thinking. Prophetic or visionary minds are thinkers of the future as an active object of desire propels us forth and motivates us to be active in the here and now of a continuous present that calls for resistance. The yearning for sustainable futures can construct a livable present. This is not a leap of faith, but an active transposition, a transformation at the in-depth level. Instead of a summary, I would like to conclude by adding the dimension of seriality to the perspective of hybrid visions of the future's agents. Expanding this endless loop of construction is interesting to note that neither work marks an endpoint, but both happen in the context of serial works, as you can see here from works from the Metacarp. They started 2019 already with their research on hybridity, and the other example, Carla Kracht, is a series called Ghost in the Machine, where what humanity taught us is just a starting point. Thank you very much for your attention.
Dziękujemy bardzo serdecznie.